With 5 Call of Duty games released since Call of Duty 2's original launch back in 2005, it could have been easy to write it off as being irrelevant in today's market. But should you though? In this video I will attempt to answer one very simple question. Call of Duty 2, is it worth it? I will start off with the game's single player, as Call of Duty 2 came out at a time when the single player was largely deemed to be the most important aspect of a Call of Duty game, something that has somewhat changed with the more recent instalments of the franchise. The campaign is of a decent length, taking between 6 and 8 hours to complete, or should I say the game's free campaigns.
Now, walk over to that table and pick up those weapons.
Call of Duty 2 has 3 separate campaigns, each told from the perspective of a different nation. The Russians, the British, and the Americans. And although the gameplay in each campaign feels the same, there are vast contrasts in the locations that you visit, and it's nice to get some variety with the characters, even if it is mainly simply hearing the same phrases, shouted in different accents.
Alright, listen up. We're finished here. Well done, boys.
I'll drink to that, sir.
Unfortunately, the game's story isn't particularly engaging, nor is it told that well. As Call of Duty 2 is a World War II shooter, you will find that you will either know what's going to happen, or not care. Although staying true to the events as they actually unfolded during the war does help to give events a sense of realism, it also limits the developers' creative freedom severely. Most of the game's narrative is told through slow and dull voiceover over black and white pictures of maps and war scenes. And although this might give the game a sense of credibility, it is hardly using the interactive medium of video games to its fullest extent. Thankfully though, if the game's cutscenes won't keep you entertained, the gameplay should. The campaign is much of what you might have come to expect if you've played other Call of Duty games. The same ducking in and out of cover while you wait for your health to regenerate, constantly spawning enemies, big set pieces and scripted events are all here. Although where the game does differ is with the amount of freedom that is gifted to the player. For several sections you can choose what angle you'd like to approach an objective from, or even what objective you'd like to deal with first. And while this doesn't improve the game that much, as the AI can sometimes struggle when it doesn't know where the player is going to be coming from, and most of the objectives do still boil down to go here and blow this up, it is still something that is unique to the Call of Duty 2's campaign when it is compared to other Call of Duty games. While the campaign features enough dramatic moments and solid gunplay to keep you engaged until its finale, it will give you little motivation to replay it more than once. The game has no collectibles or secrets to be discovered, and apart from completing the game on the hardest difficulty, there is no challenges to be found in the way of achievements either, so the next place to look is the multiplayer. Call of Duty 2 features 5 game types that can all be played on 13 maps, although more maps are available for download at a price. And while the campaign feels much the same as modern Call of Duty games, the multiplayer is showing a few wrinkles.
Axis eliminated. Allies win.
Graphically, the game still looks decent, although environments can often look simple and slightly blocky. But Call of Duty games' big attractions have never been the visuals, they're all about the gameplay. Although moving around, aiming down your gun, lying prone and throwing grenades will all feel familiar to veteran Call of Duty players, many of the other features that more recent Call of Duty games have included as standard are missing. The biggest of these missing features are custom classes. While at the start of the game you do choose a class setup, these classes are not customizable. They basically just boil down to what gun will you start with and how many grenades will you have. This can be considered as a good or a bad thing, depending on what you like in a shooter. If you like everyone to start on a level playing field, with no perks, equipment or gun attachments, altering the outcome of firefights, and instead the outcome of battles to be based on player tactics, reactions, and aiming abilities, then this simplified gameplay might be for you. Other features that you might have expected to be included aren't present, such as kill streaks, the domination or demolition game types, or any in-depth leaderboards. And as the community is so small, you are unlikely to find any ranked games, so you won't feel that sense of progression that you get in other Call of Duty games. So everything really comes down to the game's pure gameplay. And even that might not be exactly what you've come to expect. For example, there is no sprint in the game. You instead have to switch to your pistol for you to be able to run faster. And sure, that's not a game breaker, but it will still take some getting used to. Something else that you may have to adjust to is the button layout. And while the game's default settings are nearly identical to the series' later installments, if you usually play on the tactical button layout, you are going to have to change, because it's simply not in the game. Once again, this is somewhat of a minor point, but it can still cause frustration if you plan to switch between Call of Duty games regularly. On the whole, gameplay is great fun. Apart from the game's sometimes erratic auto lock-on system, moving and aiming feels intuitive, and matches can be just as fun and intense as the more recent Call of Duty games.
Axis eliminated. Allies win.
But while playing is fun, finding games can be difficult. The game does still have a community on the Xbox 360, but it is a small one. I have always managed to find a game whenever I have tried. However, these are usually small 2v2 games, with players frequently backing out. Playing the game type that you want can also be difficult, as most players seem to be exclusively playing deathmatch. All of this does of course depend on the time and day you are searching, but don't expect to quickly jump into a match of your choice through any kind of matchmaking system. Once you do find a group of players and get a game started, everything doesn't always go smoothly. Lag and connection interruptions are a frequent occurrence, and as Call of Duty 2 was released before the days of host migration, expect a few abrupt endings when you kill the host a few too many times. Matches also have a tendency to turn into sniper-only affairs a little too frequently. The sniper rifles are particularly powerful, which makes Call of Duty 2 a favourite for quickscopers and trick shooters. And while these sniper lobbies can sometimes be good fun, it would be nice to see some more variety in the gameplay. Variety is also lacking in the maps. Despite the game featuring a decent amount of varied maps, the game's host system allows players to choose what map is played, which often results in the same small handful of maps coming up again and again. In conclusion, Call of Duty 2 is a game that hasn't aged badly, but with so many sequels released so quickly after its launch, you can't help but compare it and feel slightly disappointed with its lack of features. But is it worth the price tag? If you are a fan of the Call of Duty franchise, but get frustrated by getting mowed down by air support or blown up by noob tubes and want a more simplified experience, then Call of Duty 2 could be the game for you. However, if you have only played the franchise's more recent installments and are loving them, or have just got an Xbox and are looking for cheap games to add to your collection, then I would recommend looking elsewhere.